Welcome to Boston and Bubbles, the not-so-serious podcast. Join us as we chat with DSOs and industry partners, getting to know the people behind the brands. Pour yourself a drink and get ready for some fun. We hope you enjoy the episode. I think we're officially recording our first podcast ever. Hello and welcome to Boston and Bubbles. Cheers, Mark.
No, you gotta say it the right way. Cheers from Boston. Cheers.
Lo and behold, that's what our podcast is about, how to pronounce things in Boston.
Boston language. So how great is this that we're actually here right now, Bubbles? We've talked about this for months, and we're actually doing it. And do you know why we're doing it? Because we're doers.
Please tell me why.
We are doers. And to all the people who said that we couldn't do it, who didn't believe in us, I'm joking. Nobody said anything because nobody knows we're actually doing this.
I was going to say, besides, people would be like, yes, nobody's going to tell us we can't do shit. No one.
That's the Boston spirit right there, Bubbles. All right, let's talk about this. Let's talk about what we're doing. Let's talk about our goals. Maybe talk a little bit about who we are and actually why we're doing this. As the dearest lady, I will let you go first, Miss Bubbles.
Okay. Well, hello to anybody who might not know me. I am the Bubbles of Boston and Bubbles. I'm also known as Sarah Sparkles. I have worked in dental probably for 13 years. I've done majority of my stint has been dental marketing and implant marketing, all sorts of marketing. I worked at the Dentist Entrepreneur Organization, the DEO, and I just really fell in love with building relationships and social media. And I kind of married the two. And here I am with my own little baby company, our Thrive Tribe. We're just a bunch of unicorns running around, trying not to stab ourselves and, having a good time.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. And so for me, I'm actually a sixth generation dentist in my family. It's pretty funny. In my bedroom, I have a project that I did that's framed. This was when I was in first grade. And of course, in first grade, we're talking like maybe 1980, 1981. The question is what do you want to do when you grow up? And at that time, at that age of my life, I said I wanted to be a dentist. I had a little picture of my father, who was also a dentist, working on me. But funny enough, in the little section where I wrote about why I wanted to be a dentist, I actually said, I want to be a dentist like my dad. I want to fill cavities. And if I have bad patients, I'm going to put skunk toothpaste in their mouths. So this is the obvious punk side of Boston that came out at that age, and it continues to grow and live on. But it's pretty amazing because I have this picture set up in my bedroom. It's been there forever, past 20 years. And, I just really looked at it today for our first podcast here today to give me a little bit of inspiration. But long history of dentistry. I live in many dental worlds here in the private practice sector and the public health sector. I am an endodontist, full-time endodontist. I have 4 locations with 2 partners here in southeastern Massachusetts, and also have a couple of associates. Aside from that, I have a large portable dental practice where we have general dentists go out to about 350 schools throughout the state of Massachusetts, providing general comprehensive dental services to mostly Medicaid patients who do not have a dental home. And lastly, I have a dental consulting firm where we do dental consulting with all different types of dental spaces, whether it's public health or private spaces. And basically, we do a deep dive into these dental practices and teach them how to become more productive, how to streamline processes. So my life is all about dentistry. And, I think you and we kind of really hit it off, Bubbles, when we first met, which I'm going to tell you right now, it's probably about our 1-year anniversary. I don't know if we want to get into that a little bit. And don't tell me that you don't remember this, because I'm going to be very disappointed if you don't.
Oh, I remember. First of all, anybody listening, they're probably like, wow, Mark is really interesting and Sarah is boring as crap. Like, what? You,
You are all about unicorns and bubbles, which I love.
I remember when we had met at like it was at Amplify. I don't even
Yeah.
think that I knew or recognized that you were in the room until you said something to me at Dykema last year when your one and only your what do they call them, your hall pass, Belinda Carlisle.
Oh, we'll get to that in another episode. I can't wait for that episode. Dan
Yeah,
Barker is
we'll
going to
have
be
to.
very jealous. Again,
All I have to say is Belinda, Belinda, Belinda. That's all. I do remember when we were at when I was in my sparkly sequined blazer, which by the way, man, wearing a sequin jacket or shirt in Florida, even though I'm inside, this was maybe not my best choice. Like, I don't know, it's hot as heck in here, but it's funny that it's been almost a year. Time just flies. It really does.
it sure does. So I'll tell you what, I remember vividly that Amplify conference because that was really my first DSO conference to attend. And, you were a speaker along with Sam Strain, who I love, and Cassie Talon, who I also love. And all three of you presented in such a great way. Once again, you talked about unicorns and champagne and sparkles. But honestly, the way that you spoke, and I have like ADD, I can't listen to anyone, but I was totally tuned into you and to Sam and to Cassie, and just thought you did such an amazing job with speaking because you were so down to earth. You presented in such a clear way. And, I distinctly recall after, you spoke, I went up to you and I guess you don't remember this. So much for first impressions, but, I told you how
Oh
much
my
of a great
gosh.
job you did. And you're like, oh, thank you. Thank you. And I think from there, it was really LinkedIn that kind of brought us together because, you would start doing postings. I would see your posts and I make little comments. And, you had made one post about the upcoming last year Dykema event. And you noted how you would be out on the dance floor, putting your moves out there. And I could not help but to resist and say, Sarah Ruberg, I will see you out there on that dance floor. And sure enough, I did. And Dykema, I think, is really where we came together and started talking more and started actually working together, which, was fantastic.
That's one of the things I love so much about our industry is these conferences where you get to see people in person. And thank you for saying such wonderful things. You've always been such a huge supporter and such a good friend of mine. And I couldn't imagine, and maybe this sounds cheesy, but that's part of who I am. I couldn't imagine going on this journey in dental and this past year. I could not have imagined it without you being a part of it. You're just always
Oh,
so
so moving.
upbeat and ready. Even when you get mad at me for not wanting to go out afterwards and you get your panties all twisted because of it and you get mad, like, well, we move past that, because you then realize you can have fun with other people other than just me. But you really are your dedication and your passion and your story and your all of the things are what really draws me, your personal brand. And I don't just say that because, oh, Sarah, you talk about personal branding all the time. Like, you really exemplify personal brand and you live it. You live your true self every day. And I love that about you.
So coming from you, I mean, that's Sarah, it really does. And I don't think you've ever said that to me before. I'm getting a little bit emotional, but thank you for saying that. It means so much. I do want to say one other thing. This was pretty funny. At the Dykema conference, again, you and I had started talking, and I think we were going to start doing a little work together. And whenever I work with someone, it's always important for me to make sure that they're very responsive. And, I don't know if you recall, but the DVIN members, led by Eileen Day, Eileen, woo! We were in a little workshop, and you were on one side of the room, and I was on the other side of the room, and I just kind of saw you sitting there. And I said to myself, I want to see how responsive Bubbles actually is. So I took out my phone, I sent you a little text, and I was just watching you. And I wanted to see how long it was going to take for you to respond to me. Sure enough, it was right away. I was like, this is my girl. I'm going to work with her. So, we all
Sorry, Eileen, that we weren't paying attention. We were texting each other during your workshop. Sorry, kind of not sorry
love
though.
you, Eileen Day. So I think one of the great things about this show, Sarah, is that, we are going to be able to give plugs to people and to businesses, which I absolutely love doing because there are just so many great people out here in this space. And, again, when I think back to those first conferences that I went to in the DSO space, everyone was so like open and chill and funny. And I feel like paying it back to these people, or actually paying it forward to more people, in the great things that we have to say about them, because as we know, this show is all about love, is all about positivity. It's all about the unicorns and the sparkles. And if you're looking for a show where you're going to be talking about numbers and KPIs and profit and losses and balances, this really isn't the show for you. But if you're looking for a show where, you're going to be laughing, you're going to be hearing some amazing stories of amazing people, what really drives these people, what can motivate us and inspire our listeners, this is going to be the show for you. I mean, this is like a Friday night kind of show where we're kicking back, where we're having our little drinks, right? I got my beer here. You have your bubbles. You have your champagne. But that's the type of show that we're looking at. Sarah, what do you want to add to that?
Well, first, when you said we're not going to be talking about KPIs, and I'm like, KPIs, and then I was like, our KPIs could be keep putting it in my glass. That
I like
could be
that. I like
our
that, bubble.
KPIs. I was talking to Andrew McMath from Inside Desk this week, and he's the only
All right,
person that
time
I called
out.
about.
Sorry, I don't like to interrupt people, but I have to interrupt you on Andrew
Yeah.
because I'm going to tell you something about Andrew. We were at the Yankee Multi-Site Summit, my hometown of Boston. As you can see, I have my hybrid Boston shirt on, and we were going into a club or a pub, and I had on like a nice kind of shirt with a hood, and they would not let me in because I had a hood. Andrew literally took his shirt off of his back, gave me his shirt, and he had another type of shirt or sweatshirt that he was wearing that had no hood. Literally gave me his shirt off his back so that I could go into the club, and we had the best night ever. So thank you, Andrew. Love you, my friend.
Oh,
Please go
oh,
on, Sarah.
well,
I'm sorry.
I I love that. So Andrew is just he's good people. I love Andrew so much, and he's smart and he's passionate about what it is that he does. Hashtag not sponsored. But I was talking to him earlier this week, and I was like, I haven't told anybody this, but I'm filming a podcast with Mark Doherty this week. And he's like, what's it going to be about? And at first I was like, it's kind of like the Seinfeld, right? Like it's just going to be a show about nothing. We're just going to talk about stuff. But the more he and I talked about it, the more and more I got more excited about it, because I feel like, we hear all of these other podcasts about data and KPIs, and that's all very, very interesting. But I think one thing that's really important to you and I is the people. Who are these people? Who are we working with? We want to know more about them. And you don't have to tell us like your kids' names and what time they eat and where you went on vacation, but like it's people want to like, know, and trust who they work with. So I really love having the opportunity to have a platform to where people can be themselves. I mean, you're a great example. you're a clinician. Some clinicians could be, stuffy and not have fun and or not think that they think they have to be one way. And so that's what I was saying I love about you is that you live your true authentic self every day. So clinicians seeing you might be like, wow, I can be myself. I can be myself and still be a badass, just like Mark. So I think I love that this show will be able to highlight people's personalities because I think that's what we all love to see. So that's what I'm excited about.
That is fantastic, and we are people persons, and yes, we really want to know about the people that are guests on the show, and what really drives them, what motivates them. And we want to hear their stories. And for me, I love hearing people's stories from where they've come from, the losses that they've had, the roller coasters that they've been on to get into the positions where they are. And know what? It doesn't have to be a CEO of a big DSO or big business. It doesn't have to be a clinician that's well known nationally. It can be anyone. Anyone from the frontline workers, receptionists, dental assistants. We want to hear their story because everyone plays such a pivotal role, as we know, with our dental teams.
Yeah, like how else would anybody know that you were a breakdancer?
Talked about this briefly. We will be talking about Comic Kid in another episode in the future. The word has gotten out there a little bit about the Comic Kid days. But yeah, I can't wait to get into that episode and talk about that.
Well, I don't know if I'm going to have as interesting of stories, but I will share one story. Did I ever tell you that I auditioned? So I used to want my goal in life, I wanted to be an actress. I wanted to be an actress and I wanted to take over for David Letterman and my first guest was going to be, I mean, in my mind, there's no question. My first guest was going to be my father. Like I had prepared for this. Actually, I wanted to be on MTV's Real World. I wanted to be an actress and then take over for Dave Letterman. So those were like my really exciting things or what I wanted to do. So I actually auditioned for Wanna Be a VJ. Do you remember that show? Like,
wow. Are you
yep.
serious?
I have a picture of me in Miami with like the cool like MTV microphone that had the little square around it that has like MTV. Oh yeah. And I get there and they're like, what's like something really cool about yourself? Like I hadn't prepared because I'm a total winger when it comes to stuff and preparing is not my forte. And they're like, what's a really fantastic thing about you, Sarah, that you can do that would just be like amazing, that you'll be known for? And I was like, I can make a really weird noise with my mouth. That was my thing. That was my stupid
Oh
thing that I
my.
auditioned. Yeah. I don't even know now. What would I say? Like you could say all sorts of stuff. I'd be like,
You
I don't
know,
know.
so this is your moment here. This is your moment. Maybe some bigwig producer, cast producer is going to see you on here and going to say, "Oh my gosh, I need to get Bubbles on my next movie set or series," and that
What
would
we've
be
been missing.
so. There's a couple of things that I think is going to be pretty funny with the show in the future. Some of the features here. I believe we're going to have one feature where we can actually have people call in. Now, we're going to have some type of screening process for those yahoos like Dan Barker, Amy Vale, because they could literally kill this show for us in a heartbeat. So maybe Melissa, our producer, will be able to screen those calls beforehand. But yeah, we're going to have the opportunity for our guests, our listeners, to call in. And, we can talk about pretty much anything because, once again, this is the laid back Boston and Bubbles, not so serious dental podcast. And, although it does center on dentistry, again, we're not going to be talking about the numbers. We're going to be talking about the people and their stories. And, sometimes things can absolutely be challenging in the dental world. for me this week, clinically, this was one of the tougher weeks I've had that I can remember. And it was a short week due to the holiday, but I had some of the toughest cases and some challenging patients that I can remember in a long time. But, this is going to be a place where you can come and you can vent because we are great listeners. Aren't we, Bubbles?
What? I'm just
I
kidding.
said, yeah.
I was just kidding. I heard you.
Sorry, I thought there was a
Isn't
little
that like
break
what?
there.
No, isn't that what you're supposed to say when someone's like, "Are you listening?" And
Yeah,
you're like, "What?
we
I
got
didn't
me.
hear you."
Gullible
We
Marky.
are. We are good listeners. And I'm sorry that you had such a tough week. But you always have such a positive attitude about things. One of my favorite things about you, which is hard. That's really hard to do, especially when you're doing as many things, my friend, as you are doing. Like I couldn't even count on two hands how many things you listed off that you're doing.
Yeah, but you know what? It's all about your team members. You have those people on your team who have the same passion, who are hard workers. It all works. So I am so grateful for the people that I work with. So, but thank you for pointing that out. It's a great point right there, Sarah.
I know how much your team means to you. That's really special. I appreciate that. So, but
What about the feature here? Um, we're going to open it up to our listeners. I wish I could say our million of listeners. Right now, it's only three, me, you, and Marissa. But we will be opening it up to see who our listeners want to have or hear as a guest on our show. I think that is such an amazing idea, which was your idea, of course. Maybe you want to talk a little bit more about that, Bubbles?
yes, and to kind of piggyback on to so when because I don't think, as far as I know, Mark, and anyone listening can correct me if I'm wrong. I don't think that any other podcast, dental podcast, does a live podcast. So in order for us to do a call in, we'll have to do it live. So like anything can happen. We can't edit
Anything.
stuff out.
No editing. No, nope, nope. People
And
are going to get a little bit uncomfortable. But you know what? That's okay because that is going to lead to growth. So we're actually helping people grow. And know what? Maybe they're going to make us feel a little bit uncomfortable too. And maybe we will be doing some growing on our podcast as well.
I think it's important to be comfortable being uncomfortable. That was actually a previous company that I worked at. That was one of their core values. And it's so true. I loved that. We will, yes. I don't know if this will be because our podcast is like us. We're going to evolve. We're going to maybe trip up or not like something that we did or make changes. So we're ever evolving, and we definitely invite and encourage any type of feedback. So, but I do think it's important when Mark, you'd ask me who I think our next guest should be. There's like so many people that I would think I could think of. So I think it would be lovely to hear suggestions from our audiences on LinkedIn. So I think we'll create a poll or offer it up to that they can send us messages. But I'm really excited to hear what people have to say because there's a lot of the same people speaking over and over again, which is not a bad thing at all. Marissa just put in the chat, it has to be Andrew. I mean, we did just like give him like a huge shout out. So maybe I'm sure Andrew at some point that'll be a good show. That'll be a really good show.
Fantastic guest.
So I think it's just going to be really interesting to see how this evolves. And so long as people, I think what matters most to you and I, so long as people walk away from this feeling happy and learning something, I think that's what we want to accomplish and do it with our friends. We're not out here asking Simon Sinek to be on here. Although, if we were to ask a celebrity, and if Simon Sinek said yes, I would die. I would pass out and not be able, I would love to have him. But we're doing this in our industry, right? So it's fun to for people to see us having a good time with each other and not talking about KPIs unless it's talking about keeping it in my glass or keep pouring it in my glass. So with my lipstick, that's terrible.
KPG,
so
KPG. Yeah, you know what? I think that would be great if we could get some celebrities on here. And you know what? Hashtag goals, right? Hashtag goals. That is a new goal. I love achieving goals. And I think that, you know, I might know some people. I'm just going to say I might know some people. So, you know, future episodes, we got to take care of our dental people first. But I think that's another great idea. That's why I love hanging with you because you always have such great ideas.
Thank you. I
I
like
am
to
going to
think
call you out
I
right now, though. I'm sorry, Bubbles. I have to call you out.
yes.
We used to talk so much more, and I'm saying to myself, is it really coming to the fact that I have to create, or we have to create a podcast where I can get your attention and have a normal conversation with you? I mean, you're so
Wow.
these days. You're so busy. Um, Tell us how busy you've been.
You're calling me out. We're calling me out on our podcast. I have I have been busy. Not busy enough though to send you and Dan Barker a picture of the three of us, one in which you actually look like you adore me and Dan looks like he doesn't want to have anything to do with
No,
either one of us. Should
no,
I
no.
why he does look like he's like an Amazon man in that picture. I'm going to
What
find
it
this
was is
and
down. I came down to your level because I'm the people person just like you, and to give you a good little snuggle. You said you love my hugs. You said I'm the best hugger ever. I will never forget that. So I have to live up to that reputation.
oh, well, that reputation, in addition to now, oh, I can't open the picture, but that in addition to, wait a minute. Before we talk about how busy I am, let's talk about your new favorite way to greet me at conferences.
Let's talk about it.
I don't know if anyone else experiences this. Does anyone else get picked up
No,
physically?
and it's
Get picked up?
special for you, Bubbles. So every time I've seen you, and I have to put a lot of thought into this. Sometimes I wake up at 2 a.m., you know, thinking, how am I going to greet Bubbles the next time I see her? So I have come up with all these different ways where I give you all types of different hugs or I lift you up. It's almost like the movie Dirty Dancing, right? Where Patrick Swayze is picking up, what was her name? What's her name?
Jen, well, I mean, her name is Jennifer Grey in real life, but she was a baby. No one puts baby in the corner.
Yes, yes, yes. It's almost like that. And, you know, sometimes I'll tell you what, there's a lot of pressure in thinking about different ways how I'm going to pick you up and hug you and this and that. So I want you to let you know that it takes a lot of thought on my end.
Wait, is should that be our entrance song? I've had time of my life. Is that what our entrance song
That
should
could certainly
be?
be one of them. That could be one of them.
Wow. I never know too, because you get this look on your face, and I'm like, and I've got runway, right? So I'm like walking towards you, and you're just looking at me. I'm like, I don't know what it's gonna be. I don't know what's gonna happen. It could be like a handshake. I'm not really sure, but most of the time now it's some form of picking up.
I may even tackle you one of these times. Yes. You just prompted that thought, Sarah. I might even tackle you one of these times.
Well,
So
you'd originally asked, yes,
go ahead.
yes.
Nope,
No,
go.
you you just asked how busy I was. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just going to conferences. I think one thing I tell people a lot of in our industry is that it's important. People want to like, know, and trust who they work with, people by people, not products or services. So I just trying to go to as many conferences, schedule as many, gosh, meetings. And I'm sure when I say this, everyone's going to be like, yes. There's so many meetings and not even conferences, just like virtual meetings. Hey, I want to meet with you. Let's talk about this. Let's collaborate. And it's great to build those relationships, but it just becomes like it's a lot. I don't know if you have, I mean, obviously you're on the clinical side too, so you're practicing, you know, you're not just running your business, you're doing all sorts of things, but it can really build up as far as how much time we spend in virtual meetings. It's a lot.
Yeah, it sure can. And but you know, that's another reason why we have this show, right? So people can actually take a step back, laugh a little bit. Hopefully we can entertain our viewers, our listeners, and you know, some of the silly stuff that we do that we talk about. But you know, at the end of the day, it really does come down to dentistry. and as many collaborations as there are, and that we have, and you have, and I have, we're still trying to bring this community together even stronger, so that at the end of the day, we can really make an impact in the dental world. And I think this is a great place to start. Again, I said earlier how great these people are in this space that I've met thus far, and that you've met. And they're really smart people and doing some really darn good things. But again, it's for dentistry, it's for our patients, and we have to, kind of keep that our eye on the prize in that respect. At least from my view, my perspective.
Well, would you say though, because you use LinkedIn yourself, would you say that you would notice, and this is, you can say absolutely not, like, you're not going to hurt my feelings. Do you think that you've noticed since you've started using LinkedIn, have you noticed a difference in people or in your personal brand awareness?
I would have to say 1,000%. In fact, if it weren't for LinkedIn, I don't think I would have half the. It's been a game changer for me. And once again, this is something that you kind of educated me on. And there's a lot of good material that's put out there on LinkedIn. It's a great way to interact with people, to talk about different topics, and quite frankly, to get better educated on things. But yeah, it's a great resource. It's a great platform to get information out there, and to speak with people, to communicate with people who are on the same playing level as you. So yeah, 100%, Sarah, 1,000%.
Did you also tell me, did your dad like practical jokes?
Huge, endless, like merciless, practical joker, merciless.
Do you have is there like one story that really stands out to you?
Um, yes, one story stands out to me. Um, this story I did not witness because I was younger, but my father um, totally set up one of his friends. My father was into snowmobiling, and he took a friend with him. Um, and he had one snowmobiler in the back of his truck, and he told his friend that they were going to pick up or to buy a new snowmobile. And so my father had a roll of money, and he had all ones with one $100 bill around it. So it looked like he had a stack of 100s. And so, he picked his friend up to go snowmobiling. So once again, he had a snowmobile in the back of his truck, and they were going to buy another snowmobile at one of the local snowmobile shops. And so they're traveling on the road to go buy this snowmobile. And again, he shows his friend that he has this wad of money wrapped up. And my father sees someone on the side of the road that's walking. And, there's a lot of snow on the ground. It's snowing. And my father says to his friend, "Hey, look at this poor guy walking in the snow. Let's go pick him up and give him a ride." So my father's friend is, a little bit cautious about it, but like, okay, let's give him a ride. So they pull over, get the guy in the back of my father's truck, and they pull over and they start, driving away, and they're making small talk. And then all of a sudden, the guy that they pick up pulls out a gun, and he tells my father to pull over to the side of the road. So my father is, like, what the heck is going on here? So they pull off to the side of the road. All three people get out of the truck. And the person that they picked up, the hitchhiker, said to him, "I want to have all your money. If you have any money on you, you got to give me your money." And my father's like, "I don't have any money. I don't have any money on me." And, the hitchhiker doesn't believe him. So he pats him down, and he sees that he has this wad of supposed $100 bills in his pocket. So the guy takes the money. Meanwhile, my father's friend is like crying, hysterical right now. What's happening? The hitchhiker, gives my father a bunch of crap because, he lied to him about the money, and my father's like fighting with him to take the money back. The hitchhiker pulls out his gun, which is a fake gun, and fires a couple shots. Now, my father, he's already planted with some, fake blood things in his mouth, some fake blood things in his chest. So when he gets shot, he goes up against the car. It causes all the blood packets to explode on his chest. He bites down on the blood packets in his mouth, and it goes everywhere. So now my father's laying there on the ground, faking that he's passed away or passing away. His buddy is absolutely hysterical, is beyond any coherence. And the hitchhiker is just standing over my father, still with the gun. And, my father's friend goes over to my father and is like trying to comfort him as he's dying. And my father opens his eyes. He said, "Got ya." And so all this was a ruse. My father put it all together. The hitchhiker was a good friend of his. The buddy who was traveling with my father had no idea, but he paid him back for something that he had done to my father in the past. And I would say that was a pretty big get back. So that was the type of practical jokes that my father would play.
Is that even called a practical joke? Like, that's like next level.
Again, merciless.
Did any of that pass down to you?
Another episode?
Okay, all right. That is the amount of time that he had to put into like thinking that and planning it and like.
Oh, and this is, we're talking like probably 1980s, probably like early 80s. I mean, I was just a little guy. Again, I wasn't part of that. I just, I'm aware of the story. But typical Mark Sr.
Well, from everything that you've told me about him, he seems like he was a wonderful human.
Thank you, Sarah. And, I know we kind of share in common here. Our dads, two of our heroes, two of our best buddies, and passed in a similar kind of time of space there. And, I know it's not easy, and I know how much you loved your dad and how much he meant to you and how he kind of paved the road for you as well. Any cute or humorous or practical joking stories that you would like to share as we wrap up this session here today?
There are lots of stories that I have, and he was my business best friend. I called him Buddha, my business advisor. Anytime I had a question, and he would just say these things, and I'm like, this is like the best thing ever. And he, one of the quotes that he would shared with me a couple years ago was, "You don't have to reinvent the wheel; you just have to polish someone else's," and that just really stuck with me because and I hear this all the time in dental, right? Like we have to, like, people just stress so much about recreating like or creating something new that no one's ever heard of before. And it's like most people have heard of everything. So you don't have to copy somebody, but like find something that you enjoy doing, or if it's something you enjoy doing, find someone else who's done it and just do it your own way. You don't have to really. So he inspired me in so many ways. And but it's funny, he was this big corporate big wig. So when I told him that people refer to me as Sarah Sparkles, it was a really interesting thing for him to kind of wrap his mind around, like, how can you be a serious business person and yet be called Sarah? Like it was hard for him to draw that connection. So it's just funny, personal branding. You can dress like Neil Diamond and drink champagne and love unicorns and actually be a successful human. People, it's possible. So just be yourself. That's what I want people to know. Just be yourself.
And how well does that tie into the podcast that we have here? Because it's like a change of time. It's like you don't have to be so serious about everything, right? It's about having some fun and laughing and laughing at each other and with each other. and all the little silly and funny things that we do. But it's about, yes, being you, and we are all so special in our own way. And for me, I love trying to figure out and trying to see what or how people are so special. So once again, that's why I'm so much looking forward to the show, and getting some guests on here, and learning more about their stories and who they are, and how it's going to inspire me. So it might sound kind of selfish of me, but hey, we're being real. It's the real deal here. Cheers.
Cheers. Hi, this is Bubbles from Boston and Bubbles. Thanks again for tuning in to today's episode. You can connect with us on LinkedIn, social media, contact us via email, whatever your little adorable heart desires. Don't forget to subscribe to our podcast and stay tuned for future episodes. Until next time, keep sparkling and stay bubbly.